Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business.
Well, welcome everyone to Harness the Power of Publicity, a part of our quarterly teleclass series for the Wealthy Speaker buyers and coaching club members. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson, author of The Wealthy Speaker, and I'm here with our PR guru, Marsha Friedman. Marsha, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure, Jane. I'm really excited to be able to talk to your group. So, yeah, I'm here.
Yay! Well, you are the author of a fabulous new book called Celebritize Yourself, the 3-step method to increasing your profile and exploding your business. Tell us a little bit about this, and congratulations on the book.
Oh, thanks. Well, you know, I have a PR agency. I started it about 20 years ago. And my business is really focused on experts who've written books, nonfiction authors who use their book as a marketing vehicle for their company. As well, we do a lot of work for corporations who understand the value of the media as a promotional tool, as a platform, because the media, you know, gives you instant credibility, no matter whether it's for a message or product or service or you as a brand. So I've been doing that for 20 years for so many people, a variety of industries, from sports, finance, health, fitness, entertainment, politics, you name it. So I really understand the value of PR for branding a company. And so, you know, and it's funny because my clients all have books. So I'm specialized in the publishing industry for so long that years ago I thought I need to write a book because I keep touting it as the important tool for marketing a business. So 4 years ago I sat down and thought, all right, it's my turn. What am I going to do? And, you know, the interesting process on that, Jane, and for the listeners, because it really is a process. You're speakers, and if you don't have a book, you really need to develop one. It is a door to the media. It's the pathway to your audience. It's vital. But one of the most important things I found in writing my book, and I talk about it in my book, is that you really need to identify first and foremost what is a message, what is unique about you and your message that you're very passionate about. That would be the foundation for your book. And that's really, you know, my book really talks about today's ability to become an expert, a celebrity expert. You know, we have it with the legal industry. We have our attorneys. We have chefs. We have just really, you know, we have the bounty hunter, we have the dog whisperer. We live in a world of celebrity. So I really encourage everybody to write a book and then use that book as a platform to get into the media. And that's really what my book is about.
Okay, and it's a stepping stone. And one of the things here in the world of Speaker Launcher that we've been talking about forever is being an expert first and a speaker second, because my friend Brian Palmer at National Speakers Bureau says that clients no longer want to hire speakers. They want to hire smart people who happen to speak. And this is exactly what you're talking about, only you're talking about taking it just one step further to this level of celebrity.
Absolutely, and that's so true, not just in the speakers world, but in the world of the media. You know, I constantly have to explain to my clients, you know, when we book you as a guest, when we pitch you to the media, we're not pitching your book. We're pitching you as an expert on a very important topic that's going to be informational and entertaining to the audience. So, absolutely, it's not about the book, and it's not even about you. It's about you being an expert, and that's why building that and understanding what you're an expert about is so key. And then you can very easily become a celebrity. There's so many ways to actually achieve that level, that status. I mean, truthfully, even when you appear as a guest on TV, or radio in your local market, you immediately, by most people, have that status as a celebrity. They saw you on TV, they heard you on radio, they read about you in their local newspaper or magazine. That's not happening to them in their world. So it really elevates you and it gives you that credibility as an expert immediately, and that's why it's so powerful.
You were talking about that when you're booked in your local media or in national media, that automatically elevates you above perhaps the people that might be wanting to book you into speaking presentations. And most of the people who are on the line with us today are professional speakers, but I would say a large percentage are also authors. Tell us about your company, EMSI, and I'd like to direct them to your website, MarshaFriedman.com. That's Marsha, MarshaFriedman.com. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Let's point them there so that they can see EMSI. Tell us a little bit about what you and your team, I met your fabulous team down in LA at Book Expo last year, and boy, what a dynamic group of people you have working for you there. Tell us just a little bit about what that company does so that they know your host of services.
Well, absolutely. And we are a full-service publicity firm. So authors and corporations will hire us to arrange interviews for them on talk radio shows around the country or appearances on local and national TV or obtain editorial coverage in newspapers and magazines. And that's really what a publicity company is. That's what we do. We're very different in a few different ways. One of the most meaningful things is that we're a pay-for-performance firm. For those of you that understand my industry of PR, you'll know that most firms are their fee structure is built on a retainer basis. So you pay them a monthly retainer, and you're paying for their best efforts to get you in the media. And with a pay-for-performance model like ours, it doesn't work that way. You're not paying for best efforts. We have a rate, very standard rates for a radio interview, for a local TV interview, for national, and even for print. So it's a very different model, which I think is really a win-win for our clients because they're really paying for actual bookings we arrange. And, of course, it's a win-win for us because we're motivated to get them quality bookings so that they're going to want to continue the relationship with us. So, that's one way we're very unique. But another thing about my company that I'm really proud of that is very meaningful when it comes right down to the nitty-gritty of being able to get publicity for our clients is the way I've structured my company, in that we're specialists. I have a radio campaign manager who does nothing all day long but work with radio producers. I have a TV campaign manager who just works with local and national TV, and my print campaign manager is focused solely on print. And why that's so important is because most PR firms, if you hire a firm, you're going to get relegated to an account manager, and that person may be very experienced, but the point is it's almost impossible for one person to reach out to all the media in order to obtain really quality media bookings and a good quantity. There's just too many media outlets. So, and also the other key thing, and this is really important for those of you who are doing your own PR, the media, they're different. Radio is, there's no visuals. It's all listening to a show. With TV, it's watching, it's visuals. And with print, it's the written word. Well, what does that mean to you? It means that producers for radio are looking for something very different than the TV producer is looking for. And that's very different than what the journalist is looking for. So that's why I designed my firm to be specialists, because they have a very special approach to their particular medium that they're working with. Does that make sense to you, Jane?
Absolutely. Would you say that because of the way your firm is structured, that their relationships are stronger? Is this not still a relationship business, in the trust and knowing that, okay, if if so-and-so says they have someone good, they have someone good?
To some degree, it very much is. I mean, obviously, because, this is what we do all day long. We have very strong relationships. But, the fact of the matter is, if we go out to our best friends who are producers on a radio show or a TV show, if our client isn't an exact match for what they're looking for their audience, they're not going to book our client. They're just not. Because they're all about ratings. They need to, the life of their show and the success of their show is making sure that whoever they have on a guest is going to provide a very entertaining and informative show, or else their ratings drop. So, yes, it's about relationships, but it's also about knowing how to pitch the media correctly, so that, because quite frankly, you build credibility right there. We serve two publics. I feel that I've always had this as my premise. My clients who pay our bills, pay our salaries, are obviously, my primary clients, but we also serve the media. I have to provide them with entertaining and informative guests who can really help them strengthen their shows. And just in doing that time and again, that builds credibility for us as an agency.
Absolutely. I understand that. Okay, so we probably have maybe close to 100 professional speakers on the line. Like I said, I'm sure a large percentage are authors. And many of them will perhaps be going out and trying to do their PR on their own. So let's talk about some of the things that you can teach them that can help them do it. What are maybe some mistakes that people might make that would really turn off the media?
Probably one of the biggest mistakes that a guest makes when he's on the air is they immediately think that their job is to sell themselves or sell their book. And that's probably the absolutely worst thing that you can do when you're on the air. When you've landed that interview, the most important thing to do is be engaging with the host. You really want to engage that host. I was speaking to a dear friend of mine who developed the Laura Ingraham Show, and he was telling me about one author in particular who was a guest, who had obviously been coached by a consultant to get on the air, and the consultant told him, okay, you need to make sure you say the name of your book 12 times. So every sentence was, blah, 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 and the name, and my book is blah, blah. Well, it got so obnoxious that Laura finally said, hey, this interview is ending right now if you say the title of your book one more time. Needless to say, he only got 5 minutes and was never asked back as a guest. The truth is, when you get on the air, and we could talk about how to get on the air, but when you are on the air, your most important job is to engage that host. Look, that host has viewers and listeners because he or she has spent years developing his following. So they love him. They're tuning in because, they feel comfortable with that person. So if you engage that host, then that host is going to do more promotion for your book or your message than you can ever imagine. So it's really key. And some of the things that you can do if you're going to be a guest on a radio show, the beauty now is we have internet. So most shows have, log the archives on their website. You can go and you can listen to a show. Same thing with TV. Watch it if it's a national show. Know what the hosts are like. What are their personality quirks? They may talk about their kids. When you're on the air, say something like, I heard the show you did yesterday with that sailor. I thought that was hysterical. Get in communication with that host. Be interested in that host, because if you are engaging that host, they're going to do the work for you when you're on the air. So I just can't impress that more clearly enough. And the funny thing is, I've had my company for 20 years, booking clients as guests in the media. About 3 years ago, I developed my own radio show. I have a national radio show. We're on once a week. And I started having some of my clients on as guests, and I had, obviously we have a lot of celebrities who are on as guests. And that's when I really learned how poorly people are trained to be on on the air. There's just a few who really understand that their job is to help me have a really entertaining and informative show. The guest that gets on the air and starts pitching their book or pitching their message, I cringe at. And truthfully, we do cut the interview short because I don't want to lose my listeners. So it's really, really very key. But, we can also talk about how you actually get the media, some of the things that I can walk you through the process that we do here, which is really a process that I think anybody can apply. Does that sound good, Jane?
Absolutely. Let's go to the process. But before we do that, when you're getting ready and preparing to go on to a show, does the interviewer, would they be offended by having sample questions or something like that, or do they have their complete own agenda and they just want to go where they want to go?
They're never going to be offended because by having that for them. But some hosts, we provide questions for the host. We always do. And some are going to use it and some aren't. Larry King is very famous for saying he never studies anything about the guest before they come on the air, which I think is amazing. I mean, he's an icon in the industry, and he really has an amazing ability to still do a fabulous interview. But what we do is we like to prepare the host who doesn't have the time or who doesn't have that skill. So providing questions, absolutely. Some will use it, some won't.
Okay, they won't be offended by that. I just wanted to make sure that was still the case. Okay, so let's go into a formula for actually getting booked onto, would we be saying maybe radio and TV in this case? And then we'll talk about print later?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's start with, for example, radio. Well, first, there's some basic datums that you can use for any medium because it really applies. Probably the most important thing, you never want to pitch yourself. That's an absolute no-no. You always want to pitch the issue that you're an expert on. So, for example, if you're a mortgage broker and you've written a book, you want to pitch a show or idea about the best ways to finance a home in today's market. If you're a interior designer, same thing. You never want to pitch your service as your service. You want to pitch what's the show going to be about. So you never pitch yourself. That's always very key. Always pitch the issue you're an expert on. The second most important thing is never, ever pitch your product. If you have a product, you never pitch that. You pitch the product that you pitch the problem that your product addresses. It's always, you're there as an expert to solve a problem for the audience. For example, we had a client who had a product for children suffering from diabetes. Well, we went out to the media with the story about the rising number of young children who are suffering from diabetes. And who better to talk about that problem than our client, who was a pediatric endocrinologist. His credentials, as a doctor, made him a perfect source for speaking out on this problem. So he, that's what the media was interested in. And then, of course, he was able to tie in his product as a remedy or as a possible solution for parents to use for children with diabetes. And so that's how you want to position anytime you have a product. Same thing with any kind of a service. Again, you never pitch the service. Always, what's the problem that the service addresses? So those are the two very key things we use in pitching the media. But the most important factor in our success that I want to share with you is that we really understand what the media is looking for. And that's really key. You want to know the media that you're pitching. For example, if it's a radio show, you want to make sure that you're pitching, if your message is about business, you want to make sure you're not pitching, a sports show or a cooking show. So you really want to know what the show is that you're pitching, and that you're a right fit for it. But, when a client comes on board...
I just want to ask a little question. Say if we have a professional speaker who has a really inspirational story. Maybe they speak on overcoming grief or turning negative things into something positive. What would their angle be? Would they be a part of another story on overcoming things, or what would their angle be? What would their pitch be?
Well, that would be the angle, actually. You just named it. If their message was about how to overcome grief, that's a perfect example. Then, the best thing that they could do is really find out look at the news, follow the news. That's what we do. We watch the news every morning. We're on top of all the headlines. We're looking for stories that are in the news that might tie into any of our clients' message. And then we actually pitch the show using a top news story. We'll often do that. If we don't have that, though, then we'll come up with an angle about how to overcome diversity, or how to overcome, whatever the issue is, how to overcome diversity. And then our guest would be an expert who's going to provide listeners with things that they need to know about problems that, the everyday problems that they may encounter in their lives. So the show is about how to overcome diversity as an example. But the important thing... Adversity. Yeah, adversity. Right, exactly. Thank you. Or diversity, it can work both ways.
We do have people on the line, no doubt, who are experts on diversity, so we'll deal in more business topics here as we go. But you're talking about things that are really timely and really time sensitive. Give us a little timeline on a pitch. How would that work?
Well, when you're dealing with radio, as far as timelines are concerned, if you've got an angle that is ties into something that's really in the news, radio will call you back right away. If you pitch them right away, you really do have to be sensitive to the timelines. And the thing that boggles my mind sometimes with my clients is they don't understand. They've hired us to go out there in the media. We've developed this great pitch that ties into the news. The media responds and wants them right away, but their calendar isn't clear. So it's like, no. If you understand the importance of the media, when you go out there, you got to be prepared, because you're not buying time. This is free airtime. You are being invited on a show. It's like being invited into the host's home. That is their airtime. So you want to be ready to get on the air as soon as they ask you. But with radio, it's we usually book 2 weeks in advance. But again, if it's very timely, they could want you right away. National TV. If it's a news story, if you're pitching yourself that's tying into the news, they're going to want you within 24 hours. You have to be prepared for that. When we go out to local television, local TV usually books about 4 weeks in advance, because we're going to their morning news anchor usually, because that's the show that has a format for guests. So they're usually booking. They're not necessarily following the news as much as developing light, informative, entertaining angles. So local TV works about 4 weeks in advance. And then when you're going out to newspapers, of course, they're looking for daily news. So you want to, they're going to be very immediate. They may respond right away or within a week. And then you've got your magazines, which are longer lead publications, and it sometimes can take a year to get a story in a big publication. As a matter of fact, interesting that you came up with the overcoming adversity. We had an author who wrote a book on that very topic, and we pitched it to print media. Family Circle responded immediately, asked for a copy of the book. That process took about 2 months, just the going back and forth, them getting the book, them acknowledging that they got the book, and we just kept in communication in a very light manner. You never want to push them. You just stay in communication. And they fit us into an issue. They had it in their mind, an issue that they were going to be doing. It was 9 to 12 months from the point that we got into communication. They felt our client fit into that issue because the long lead magazines prepare their issues that far in advance. Some of them, not all of them. It's more typical 3 to 6 months. Anyway, the long and short is a year later, she got a fabulous full-page spread in Family Circle about her message, and her book. My only point in this is print takes long. It can take long. But when it comes back, it's really phenomenal, a fabulous asset to building your business as a speaker.
Wow. Now, Marsha, since we're on that book idea, is there something you want to speak to about getting book reviews?
You know, getting pre-publication reviews are very difficult. There's just a very small universe of book review journalists. I mean, you've got your book blogs, which in today's world is wonderful. The online marketing is fabulous. But particularly if you're self-publishing, the major book reviewers, the New York Times, Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, Kirkus, those publications prefer to work with and support books put out by the traditional publishers, you know, the Wileys and the Random House, the Simon & Schuster. So it's very difficult for the pre-publication reviews. Also, taking into account that I think in 2008, there were nearly or a little over 400,000 new books published. The numbers get staggering every year, the number of new books that are published every year. So the marketplace for pre-publication reviews is fiercely competitive. We do it. We write a review for our clients. We post it on Amazon. We post it on Barnes & Noble and Borders and so on. But we actually rely more on post-publication reviews for our authors. So, and that's where we write an article about our author, about our author's topic, positioning our author as an expert throughout the article, and quoting and referencing the release of their book as part of the newsworthiness of the article. We have far more success using that method than the standard book review. And sometimes we do it in the form of a tips article. Those are very successful for you guys listening, and particularly because you are, by virtue of the fact that you're speakers, I'm going to assume that you're all experts in some area. Well, you have really valuable information that you want to impart. And, you know, quality content for journalists is a premium. They love it, particularly because a lot of your newspapers are folding or they're losing staff. So they're looking for quality content, and whenever we write a good tips article, we get great coverage. So that's a great way to get some good reviews for your books.
What do you think about getting your book up the charts on Amazon? Is that something that your company does? Are there experts that can help people kind of pump up so that they can say it? You know, a lot of times you're only up there for one day, so I kind of wonder the validity of that. But talk to me a little bit about Amazon.
Well, Jane, I'm probably the wrong person to ask that question to. I'm just going to give you a very honest opinion. I was recently pitched on that service for my book, and it's expensive, and I just don't see the value of having high rankings, paying that much money because the real product is just having high rankings for that one day. You know, I just know too much about the media. You can't go out there with puffery. They see right through it. They don't care. So I guess it depends on what your goals are. I mean, if you really want to have staying power in the media, you really have to have the platform. You have to have the expertise, and I just personally don't see the value in doing that. I see the value far more in really having a clear message, that is of value to an audience. Standing for something, having an impact on people's lives with the expertise that you have. From there, you build a media profile, and you know what? It is going to sell books.
Good, good. And you're confirming something that I have always thought, but I didn't really have a particular reason for knowing why I thought that. So I'm glad that you've confirmed that from me. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about getting on radio and TV and how important it is to be thinking like the producer and pitching them something that is going to be of value to them. They really don't care about what's going on in your work and in your life. You want to have something that's going to be of value to their audience, right?
Absolutely. The most important thing when you're developing a pitch, the most important thing that you want to think about is what will interest the audience. You kind of have to be the audience. And from that point of view, ask yourself the question, why should I be listening to you? What are you going to do for me? Who cares? That's the voice of the audience, and they're brutal. So just think about those things when you're the audience. If you can pull them in emotionally with quality information, boy, you've nailed it. That's really what's going to be key.
Okay. Now, so we've talked about radio and TV, and I want to get to placing articles, maybe a few tips on that. What do you think would be maybe 2 or 3 ideas for people who want to strategically place articles, perhaps in particular industries or fields or in magazines that their target market might read?
Again, it goes back to really understanding the media, understanding the needs of the editors. They're the gatekeepers between you and your story and the millions of readers they reach. You really have to understand that from their standpoint, their newspaper or magazine doesn't exist to give you coverage. It doesn't exist for you to get your name in the paper and generate customers for your business. Their publication exists simply to inform and entertain their readership enough to keep their readers subscribing. So in doing so, they provide enough readership to justify selling display ads that appear next to their article. So in other words, the newspaper isn't going to make money by serving you or your company in its editorial space. It can only survive by serving its readership. So you really need to understand that when you pitch them a story. So your goal is to tailor a story or an angle about your company, service, or product that's going to appeal to their readership. And of course, it can't sound like a commercial or an ad because otherwise they're going to, they'll immediately discount it. One of the things that I recommend is if you want to get into a particular newspaper, read the newspaper. Target who the journalist is that you want to reach. If it's a sports, if you're a sports expert, read the sports column. If it's lifestyles, read the lifestyle. If it's business and so on, read the style, see what they're looking for, and then you want to develop your pitch in a manner that is going to be have an affinity with how they write. The other thing you have to do is really analyze if you're newsworthy. Does your message offer solutions for the readers? If so, then that's what you need to really pitch. And again, that's why we find tips type articles are very, very successful. Because what we find, by the way, too, is we don't go out with the standard press releases. I've learned about 4 years ago that it just doesn't have the same impact that it used to have before the days of email and internet and so on. I had to redevelop a whole service in my company that we find to be far more successful. We write an AP-style article. It's journalistically, it's in the same style of a newspaper. We kind of keep it to 600 words. Our headline is in the same style of a newspaper headline. Anybody can study that, read your newspaper, see how their headlines are written, develop a headline for your article that follows that format. Just kind of study the format a little bit. What we do is we will write an article about the topic of our client's message. And again, we'll tie in our client using quotes throughout the article from our client, which immediately positions him or her as an expert. We'll tie in the release of their book if they have one. If they don't, we reference their website. But the whole point is positioning our client as an expert on a very newsworthy article. And honestly, Jane, we have great success in getting pickups by the smaller newspapers because it's quality content written in, professionally, and they're looking for good content. What will happen with the larger newspapers or even magazines, they'll never just publish a bylined article. That would be called a bylined article. They'll never publish it, but what it will do, and this happens all day long, it inspires them for a story. They're always having to come up with creative ideas for stories or for content. So our articles, for the bigger publications, they'll call and they'll say, I'm interested in this story. Can I interview your author? Or if it's a book, can you send me a copy of the book? And if I like it, I'll interview your author. So either way, it's a very successful tool that I am happy to share with your listeners.
Oh, okay. So press releases have kind of gone by the wayside at this point in your world, and some people may still use them, but probably they're becoming less and less. But your idea now is to provide a 600-word-ish Associated Press style article, and how would they receive that? Would they receive it right as the text in their email box? How does that actually go out?
Yeah, we email because as a PR firm, we subscribe to a service, a very expensive one, might I add, that gives us email contact information for all media contacts, journalists, producers, and so on. So we send it directly to them. Of course, another very key piece of information is your subject line. I'm sure most of you know that, but you've got to have a very catchy subject line that is going to cause them to want to stop and read the article. But yes, it goes out just as there's nothing before it. It doesn't shout press release. It just goes straight out to them as an article.
Okay, and there's no attachment. I'm assuming that attachments are still the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, they won't open it. The other value is the other value in investing your time and effort in writing an article is not only sending it out to the media, but also, online. We all know the power of being online these days. There's article banks that we submit our clients' articles to. There's tons of them. But that's very effective because let's face it, the internet has become a place for people to even establish your credibility. So the more articles that you have online that you've authored or talking about you, the better it is when a TV show is interested in having you as a guest or a newspaper or magazine who wants to write about you. Well, they're going to Google you. When they see these articles that you've written or that are posted on the internet, it adds great credibility. It builds, it obviously affects the Google search engines tremendously. So there's great power just even in that, in sending out your articles to some of these article banks is a very important tool.
Do you think they might sift through your blog?
Absolutely. Yeah. Online marketing, Yeah. I have to tell you personally, we have really gotten on the stick with our online marketing. and for our clients as well as ourselves. And we've just seen a great increase in our coverage and just even in our own business. I mean, it's just been very effective for our own business, generating leads for ourselves, new clients. It's been very effective. I think that online PR is just is becoming more and more valuable and very accessible. You know, some of the Jane, I'm very happy to share some of. I was going to say I'm very happy to share some of the article banks. A few of the article banks that we use that we find to be very, very good in picking up our articles are. I mean, they're common ones. You may know them, but articletrader.com, articlemarketer.com, ezinearticles.com, articlecity.com, and goarticles.com. We find those to be, we send out to a lot of article banks, but those are some of the more effective ones.
Okay, so that's terrific. That's really good information for people who are looking to maybe do some of this themselves. So that's a great list.
Mm-hmm. One other tool that I'm happy to share with you that's an insider tool that a lot of PR agencies use is MarketWire. I'm spilling the beans here, and some other agencies may not like me for it, but MarketWire is a very effective tool where you pay to have your article distributed. Usually the best way to do that is just identify a city, like wherever your hometown is, just to have them base their fee on that one city. And what we find to be very helpful from that service, and this is truthfully, this is insider information. I don't think most PRs are going to tell you this. They'll post it. We post it on there. What I get out of there from my clients are the news search engines that will pick up our articles. Those are so valuable for really increasing your Google profile, your whole web profile. You know, the yahoo.com that might pick it up, or CBS Newswatch, any of the big AOL.com, any of the big news search engines that pick it up are just a fabulous complement to everything online for you.
Let's talk for a second about social media. I know that people can connect with you through LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or Plaxo or YouTube. What do you think for your clients is one of the most effective tools in that whole genre?
LinkedIn is far more for the professional message, where Facebook is more family and social, but LinkedIn and Twitter, I think, for building the business, joining groups, building your own groups. It's just been such an effective way to communicate. You know, I'm probably a marketer before I was a PR. I've been in PR for 20 years, but I've been in marketing for a lot more than that. And the tools that we have at our hand to date for marketing are just phenomenal. And, you know, especially when you do the costing out of what you can do, how many people you can reach with your message. You know, I just finished reading a fabulous book that I would highly recommend. It just came out by Wiley, published it. The author is David Meerman Scott, and the book is called The Worldwide Rave, R-A-V-E. Fabulous book about the power of social media marketing and what it can do for your message. I highly recommend it to everybody.
Now, Marsha, I'm getting questions over email here. If anybody would like to ask a question, Jane@speakerlauncher.com. Put question in the subject line. What I'm wondering if we can send out, I'd like to the list of people who were registered for the call, I'd like to send out that list of companies. We have Article Bank, Article Trader. I'd like to give them that list. So I'll confirm with you and get the list, make sure I have the list correct, and we'll shout it out to them so that everybody can have access to those .coms. I think the list was just pretty long and quick, so we'll send that out to everybody after we're finished, and you and I can confirm that it's the correct list.
Perfect.
That's a terrific resource for people. Okay. You know, people, I have so many clients who have said, oh, I'd love to get on Oprah. That's my big thing. And I know you've written about it. I've read articles by you about getting on Oprah. Let's talk about Oprah.
You know, I have to tell you, every PR laughs about that. I wrote this article, How to Get on Oprah, and I probably got 100 or so responses from other PRs thanking me for writing the article and telling me that they're going to use it now every time a client asks them how to get on Oprah, because it's just you know, it's a standard question. You know, I think the funniest one, client that I had actually wasn't a client, it was a prospective client that called me and told me that, they wanted me to get them on Oprah, and they were going to pay far more than my fee. My fee, I think at the time for getting on Oprah would have been, if I landed it was something like $5,000. But no, they were going to pay me $20,000 if I would get on Oprah. And it was just kind of an amusing conversation for me. And so after all of this buildup, I said to the gentleman, well, okay, so tell me a little bit about the product that you have that you seem to think is a perfect match for Oprah, because he went on for 20 minutes why Oprah needed to have him on and why the audience would be perfect. And his product was psyllium husks. And if any of you know what psyllium husks are, it has to do with our intestinal system and being able to go to the bathroom easily and frequently. And I have to tell you, Jane, this gentleman was serious. It wasn't somebody trying to play a joke on me, but that is just, he seriously doubted. And when I said to him, sir, have you ever watched Oprah? He said, no, but I've heard all about it. And that, unfortunately, is the problem. Wow. But here are the facts about Oprah, okay? She only does about 100 to 130s per year. So when you consider that about 30% of those are top-tier celebrity interviews, like the Tom Cruise and her favorite celebrities, you're now down to about 70 to 90 shows that are available for guests. Then you factor in the repeat guests that she has, like the Dr. Phils and the Bob Greens. You're now down to about 60 shows that are available for guests. Well, then you factor in that there are about over 400,000 new books published in 2008, and probably every one of those authors wants to be a guest on Oprah. You can see how slim the chances are. But, the real thing is, you don't call Oprah. Oprah calls you. So, if you want to be a guest on Oprah, you really need to build your brand, regardless of whether you ever make it to Oprah. You still need, you build your media profile, appear as a guest on radio, TV, get editorial coverage, stand for something, have your message that you're passionate about. Really identify what about your expertise that you're passionate about. And don't be afraid to hold a position that's controversial, because the media loves controversial. And thirdly, as I mentioned before, have an impact on people's lives. Earn the news coverage, because those are the three things that are going to, A, build your brand, and B, if you have any chance of getting on Oprah, those are the actual qualities that you'll need to establish.
Now, would you send them a copy of your book, or would you just go about your business and try to promote your book and get the buzz going?
Oh, absolutely. There's no harm done in sending them a copy of your book. And I have to tell you on that note, we as an agency have to go through the same red tape, follow the same guidelines. If every one of your listeners were to try to reach her herself, you can't call. There are no published phone numbers. You can't email. There's no emails listed. You have to follow their protocol of sending them your pitch and your book, and then wait to see if her producers are called. But if you're going to even invest the time, the way to do it is, don't just send them your book. Send them an outline of what the segment would be. And see what she does, and then come up with a segment that you think would interest her. Don't just send her your book. It'll wind up in, the used book stack somewhere.
I can't even imagine the mountains of mail that they must get in every week. They must have just a warehouse for all the mail that comes in all the books.
Exactly.
Every one of those 400,000 books.
Yeah,
no doubt. Okay, so let me just ask you this quick question out of my own curiosity. Do your people ever just send a 2 or 3 line email to someone that they have a relationship with and say, hey, I have an idea, is this of interest? Is
Absolutely.
that not something that would work? Oh, they
no, it's a good thing to do. Here's the truth. For TV, that's really all they want. TV, national TV particularly, if you're pitching national TV, all they want are 2 or 3 sentences. They do not want the same thing that a radio producer might want. To the radio producers, we come up with a really great headline that gives the producer an immediate concept of what the show is going to be about. It frames the show. That headline, my formula for anybody that writes for me, that headline has to be the framework for the show. The producer has to look at it and immediately know what the interview is going to be about. We do 1 or 2 sentences on what the meat of the topic is. We come up with questions for the guest, and then we do a topic overview. That's what we send to radio. What we send to our national TV is exactly what you just said, Jane. 2 or 3 short sentences. Here's an idea for your show, and blah, blah, blah. But always come up with, never talk about, again, the product or yourself. Always talk about the problem that you're going to, or the information you're going to provide their viewers that addresses a problem they may be having.
Terrific. So I think we might have the ability to open up the lines here very quietly. What I'm going to do is if somebody would like to ask a question, go ahead and *6 yourself. Just hit *6 on your phone, and we'll see if we can continue to keep the integrity of the phone line. It's been pretty clear so far. Go ahead if anybody would like to ask Marsha a question.
This is David. I'd like to ask a quick question.
Go ahead.
Hi, Dave.
Hi. Regarding getting a book published, how do you actually go about that? Assuming you have a manuscript, are you suggesting self-publishing, or how do you go about getting a smaller publisher if you're a first-time author?
Good question. If this book is a marketing vehicle for your business, I highly, highly recommend that you either self-publish or you find there's a new trend in the publishing industry. I call it joint venture. It doesn't even really have a name. It used to be called Vanity Press, but it's not really the same model. But there are so many publishers out there. I used a company called Warren Publishing. There's a number of them, and I'm happy to give them to you, Jane, that you can pass on to your listeners. But the point is, if it's a marketing vehicle for your business, you don't have the time to wait for getting a literary agent, which could take you 6 months, then the literary agent marketing your book, which could take another 6 months. But even if you hit a home run, got a marketing agent, got an immediate contract, you're still expecting 12 to 16 months before the book comes out with a traditional publisher. So I can't recommend highly enough the self-publishing route.
Can you give just a very quick summary about what the cost would be for 100 units or 1,000 units, whatever the minimum number of units you're suggesting?
Depending on the size of your book, of course, you'd probably be looking at about $10,000 when you factor in the printing, the cover design, the interior design, the editing, and yeah, I would say about $10,000
on a soft cover book. You can think about maybe $2 to $3 per book. On the low end is a pretty good price to be spending. So you can that's at around 1,000 units. And I call it hybrid, actually. And Greenleaf Book Group, we'll give them a little plug. It's a group that actually introduced me to you. And they sometimes will do a lot of that work for you, which helps take things off of your hands. And actually, Marsha, one of their clients, Weldon Long, has a book newly released, and I want to ask a question about that. If you have some pretty big name testimonials, like a Stephen Covey and a Tony Robbins, how would you use that on a PR angle? Who would be interested in that? What kind of agencies would maybe pick up on that and say, okay, Covey's interested, maybe I should lean in a little bit?
You mean as far as the media, Jane?
Yes.
Well, whenever you always want to, in your pitches to the media, whenever you have any kind of big name, whether it's a business or an individual or big money, you always want to use that in your positioning yourself with a big name. So if you absolutely, you want to mention that in any articles as a reference, but you will definitely always want to use it. And, going back to Greenleaf and hybrids, I just kind of want to go back to that question for a minute because I know that it's very key for some of you out there who do have a book. The hybrid is a great solution for getting your book published. When I say self-publishing, I kind of take that into account. But the way I did it, because, if you self-publish, you have to wear all the hats of a publisher. And if you have a business as a speaker or you have some other consulting business, you don't have the time to wear all the hats of a publishing company. And it's a company. There are all, marketing, sales, distribution, HR, there's all those hats. So the Greenleaf model is a perfect example of, and there are other models out there that are hybrids that will wear all those hats for you. You just pay them to do it, but they'll do the editorial, the cover design, all of the hats for you, and that is really the best solution for you.
But probably if you were a speaker who was looking on a really tight budget to get your book out, you might wear some more of those hats yourself. And especially on the distribution side, you can nowadays have a pretty successful book with your own website and Amazon, not going the bookstore route. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely, and quite frankly, that's what I've chosen to do. I mean, I do have a book distributor, but I know the competition out there in the marketplace, even with bookstores, and bookstores going under. I'm not going to rely on bookstore sales or even a distributor, quite frankly, Jane. I'm going to personally drive my book through PR and through online marketing and through speaking engagement, everything that any of your listeners have the ability to do in that manner is what I'm doing. I mean, it's getting out there. You're a public speaker, you have a book, well, you need to get out there and speak. And I'm sure, Jane, you would encourage the same thing. Wherever the opportunity rises, you're out there. And you've got your book in hand all the time. It's a new identity if you've just published a new book. But you're going to have to drive it. And one other thing, maybe this isn't always very well known. Even if you land that contract with the Simon & Schuster or the Wiley Random House, guess what? They're not going to do the publicity for you. They may say they will, but they do a very minor job. Quite frankly, that's why I'm in business for 20 years, because I had authors who came to me after they realized that this is how I got to start in my business. I had authors coming to me after they realized that they weren't getting the PR push from their publisher. They came to me and they paid for it themselves. And that is just the name of the game. You're going to have to do it yourself no matter what.
Let's talk about a budget here for a second. We only have about a minute left. If someone wanted to really push their book and make it big, I've heard people say, book publishers, they were with Wiley or whoever, they're a printer, they're a distributor. That's all they're going to do for me. So I am going to set aside this chunk of money. I've heard $50,000. I've heard $100,000. What do you think is a realistic budget for a normal person who's just out there wanting to get their book out there? Maybe it's not going to get to the bestseller list. What do you think is a realistic budget?
I would honestly say that you should, and I think it's so important that you brought this up, because when you put all the time and effort and money into writing a book and you don't set aside a budget for promotion, you've lost before you even started. I think a minimum budget that you consider would be in the $10,000 range. You can do it for less. You can get started for less. But if you're really putting pen to paper, trying to come up with numbers and budget, I would honestly say that would be your minimum.
Terrific. So we're going to come back to the group here. I think your information, Marsha, has been just outstanding. Thank you so much. You've shared a lot of little industry secrets that I'm sure people will not be too thrilled with. But we're going to send out an email to the group who's been on the line here with some follow-up information. You and I will go back and forth on that. And I just want to say thank you so much. I'm going to open up the line so that the participants can say thank you as well.
Thank you, Marsha.
Great
job.
Thank you, guys. And listen, you can go to my website. I have a blog, Ask Me Questions, MarshaFriedman.com. I will be happy to answer it. And I just thoroughly enjoyed the time with you as well. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Show. Please visit speakerlauncher.com for your free Wealthy Speaker audit, and visit speakerlauncher.com/podcast for show notes and many more resources to help you catapult your speaking business. See you soon, Wealthy Speakers.